All right. Well, here we go. Welcome, everyone, to the Casual Guy Cast. This is going to be my channel for talking all things wrestling, and who knows what else I'm going to be talking about on this channel. It could just be wrestling. I might venture out into some other different podcasts. But for right now, let's kind of focus for it. So, welcome. A little bit about me. I grew up listening to talk radio. Pretty much like the beginning of high school, maybe late middle school. Used to listen to a lot of different talk radio shows. Shout out Jim Rome, especially Don and Mike show. That was kind of a staple for me growing up in the mid 90s. And I've just had a love and a passion for it ever since. Um, Lately, I've been kind of participating in a few different little podcasts here and there. So shout out to Ryan in Sacktown in the King's Court podcast, Grant Napier. And if you don't like that, and Haunted Horse with the Haunted Horse show, the Hollywood Rejects, I appreciate all your guys' help in trying to get this thing off the ground. And it's just something I look to have a little fun with. So I hope if you're into wrestling or you're into me, which I don't know why you would be, but um, I appreciate you being here today, and that's cool. So that being said, I am very new to this. I'm still getting things set up as far as like the layout of how the show is going to go, and eventually, we will start adding some little trinkets and um, cool effects and things like that. But for right now, it's bare bones, and that's okay. We're just getting started, so um, that's kind of where we're at. I also have another podcast that I'm going to be starting in a couple of weeks with my good friend David. That will be called The Conspiracy Cops. We're going to be talking things Mandela effect, different conspiracies, things like that, the supernatural, the unknown, all sorts of things like that. So I'm excited for that as well. But that being said, like today, I just wanted to get in here and give this thing a go. I don't think there's a better way to get things started than just by doing things and figuring it out as time goes on and getting a little bit better with each episode. So that's my goal here. And I hope you enjoy it. So that being said, here we are. This Saturday is going to be SummerSlam 2024. I, to start things out as far as like my background and my love for wrestling, this was something that I loved as a kid. I think my first WWF live event was probably 1991 at Arco Arena, and I got to see Hulk Hogan. That's pretty much all I remember from that. Hulkster walking out, and I was just hooked all the way up and through high school. I used to watch a lot of wrestling in high school. It was huge. It was the Attitude Era. I used to watch a lot of WCW as well, and I think sometime after high school, maybe wrestling didn't feel as cool to watch anymore. And so I started to fade away. About 2.5 years ago, after moving here to Dallas, WrestleMania was here at AT&T Stadium, and a big group of us decided to go to WrestleMania. And for me, that's what did it. That's what got me back into wrestling. So part of the reason why I'm going to call myself the casual guy here is because I haven't really been a part of that for the past 20 years or so. I haven't been as tuned with WWE. But that being said, I really feel like I have a passion for this, and I feel like I can tell where storylines might be going. I might be wrong, I might be right, but I just want to share my take on how I think things are going to go and my predictions, and how I feel like WWE is going right now. I think WWE is very hot right now, that's for sure. and it's been really fun. Love what Triple H is doing for WWE as far as the writing aspect of things and development, and so it's really cool to wrestling's exciting again, I think, and that that's why I'm into it. So um, that being said, let's go ahead and just dig into it. All right. So a little SummerSlam preview. Now, I might hit some of these matches, um, but I might extrapolate a little bit later on in the show. So first up, we'll start with Damian Priest versus Gunther. Uh, I think my prediction for this match is that we have a new champion in the Ring General, Gunther. I think Gunther's taking this thing. Um, and I'm gonna talk more about that as well. I think that you know Gunther is a bigger heel than Damian Priest is. I think Gunther's getting more of a reaction. And I think, looking forward, if Gunther is the champion, that sets up a bigger face versus a bigger heel um, to take the title away from Gunther eventually. And I think Judgment Day has just about turned face. Rhea Ripley is super over. Uh, she might look wicked and the dark makeup and hair and all that stuff, but she's very much a face. Everybody loves Rhea Ripley, and as far as Dom goes, Dom's maybe the biggest heel, but I don't think people hate him as much as they might seem to hate him. Yes, he gets the most boos anytime that dude takes the microphone, and I think for me that's always the biggest uh, indicator of um, how popular a wrestler is. I always say, like, whether they cheer you a ton or they boo you a ton, all that really matters is that they feel something about you. And I think Dom's done a great job of that. Some of his stuff is corny, right? And it's fun. The whole storyline about him being in jail and he's got the teardrop tattoos, like all that stuff is fun. But nobody likes him because they loved his dad so much that when Dom turned on his dad, everyone hates Dom. And I think that was the intent with Judgment Day all along, is that people don't like them. That being said, like I said earlier, Mommy is way popular, and she is a total face despite the outwards appearance and her affiliation with Judgment Day. I don't think Damian Priest elicits as much of a reaction as a heel. I think he's maybe looking more towards a singles push, but we'll talk about that a little bit more later. The next match up, Nia Jax versus Bailey. And I think Nia Jax has taken this one. I think she might be the biggest heel in the women's division. Um, and I think that's good. I don't, there's a lot of people who love Bailey because she's been around for a long time, and she's got a ton of fans during her career. Like, obviously she's gained a huge fan base there, and people still love her from her early days. But I think as far as like a heel goes, Nia Jax is sort of like the biggest heel in the women's division, in my opinion. Um, as far as that match goes, like I said, I think Nia Jax is going to take this one away. And I'll talk about this with the Liv and Rhea situation as well. But I think there's a ton of talent in the women's division. And when you look at anytime the women's division has those sort of like 8-person matches. When there's a big group of them, they always put on the best show. Hands down, they have the best matches of the night. So when you get those girls together, they got a ton of talent. Money in the Bank, again, that was a great match on the women's side. I think they had probably the best match of the night there. But I think Nia Jax takes this one. Bailey, she's always going to be able to recover, but I think they have an opportunity with Nia Jax to sort of make people hate her a little bit more because they took it from one of their old favorite wrestlers. And no disrespect, Bailey, you're not old, but you've been around for a while, right? You can always rebound from whatever loss that you might have. So the question with the Nia Jax versus Bailey match that I think is on everybody's mind is, does Tiffy cash in on Bailey or Nia? And in my opinion, I think Tiffy will cash in, but only if Nia Jax wins. I think if Bailey wins, you don't see Tiffy cash in that briefcase. But I think if Nia does win, I think that's what you're going to see. They've already been hinting at these, you know, where Tiffy wants to hand the briefcase to the ref, and then Nia gives her a weird look, like, "What are you doing?" So I think it's inevitable, and I also think that Tiffy's gonna cash in sooner than later. I don't think you're gonna have a situation like you did with Damian Priest, where he's hanging on to the Money in the Bank briefcase for 9 months, somewhere around there. I don't think you're gonna see that here. Obviously, we already had Drew cash in um, for his Money in the Bank, and we know how that went. But you know, I I don't see Tiffy cashing in on Bailey. But I could see her cashing in on Nia. So I think Nia's going to win. I think Tiffy's going to cash in on Nia, and we'll see what happens. I think if Tiffy does cash in on Nia, I don't know that she wins. I don't feel confident saying that Tiffy's going to take the title away from Nia. So that's my take on that one. Uh, Next up, Logan Paul versus LA Knight. And um, I LA Knight, look, he's one of my favorite wrestlers that's out there right now. I know a lot of people give him crap that he steals from The Rock and all these other people and stuff like that. And that might be true to an extent, but the dude is fun. He's a huge crowd favorite, and he's got catchphrases that everyone likes to say. Yeah. So I think LA Knight takes this one. My question is, as the WWE, how do you not give this guy a belt at this point? He is so over. The crowd loves LA Knight. And I think you could set up a good run for him as the US champion. And, I think the past US champions that we've had as of late, no one has been as big of a face as LA Knight. And I think he could make that belt a little bit more interesting for the WWE, and you could set up some good matches with LA Knight, with some competition that maybe isn't that top card guy. It's maybe more that mid card guy. You could give them a little bit of spotlight and stuff. So that's kind of where I see that match going. Um, Sammy versus Braun Breaker. Now, it's been kind of weird the last week or so with Judgment Day trying to beat up Sami Zayn. Um, Especially, yesterday at Monday Night Raw. Judgment Day is trying to beat up Sami Zayn ahead of his match with Braun Breaker. So, like, what are we doing here? This one confuses me a little bit. Um, as far as the match goes, I'm not sure how to call this one. I would love for Braun Breaker to take a title. The dude has all the tools in his belt. Super talented. Obviously, we know the speed. We've seen the spears. Those might be some of the most dangerous spears that we've seen in a long time. No disrespect to anyone else who uses that move, but he knows how to really hit those spears. And, I think he comes from a pedigree. If you're like me, you loved the Steiner brothers as a kid, or maybe as an adult, depending on how old you are watching this. But I you can't if you were a Steiner fan, you love Braun Breaker. He's like the sort of like dog, no pun intended, but maybe, that his dad was, but also sort of has that attitude of Scott Steiner. So he feels like me to this weird hybrid between the two, his dad and his uncle, which is really cool. And who didn't love Big Papa Pump back in his heyday? He was arrogant. Um, he was obviously jacked. He was huge. And all three of those guys, that whole family, they know how to wrestle, right? And so, how do I call it? I think my heart tells me Braun Breaker, and maybe my head tells me Braun Breaker too, but I'm not going to count Sammy out on this one. Although, what I will say about Sammy is that, at least as of late, when he does get a title, he feels like sort of this transitional champion, to the next guy. And so, you know, I, I think if Gunther takes the title, if Nia Jax takes the title, if LA Knight takes the title, I don't know if they're going to switch hands, with that many belts. So maybe my head is telling me that it's Sami Zayn that wins this match, but I think I would be super stoked to see Braun Breaker take it. My only question is, has he sort of cut his teeth or paid his dues in the WWE to earn having a title belt so soon? I know he's been in NXT and all that stuff, but, there's maybe an old school part of me that thinks, some of the newer guys, they got to sort of, cut their teeth a little bit and take some losses before they start earning belts. But who knows? Um, all right, where do I want to go with the next one? Cody, CM Punk. Let's do that. Okay, Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk with Seth Rollins as ref. Um, you know, I am a Drew McIntyre fan. I'm not a huge CM Punk fan, but I know a ton of people are. And it felt so split with the crowd last night on Monday Night Raw. When CM Punk comes out, everyone's cheering for him, and then Drew comes out and he gets a pop. But it feels like a very split crowd between these two, and I think that's the truth. I think that it's pretty cool that I don't know if either guy is like a total baby face or a total heel. And so you kind of got this weird like mix of, are these guys heels? Are they baby faces? I'm not sure that they sort of fit into either category. They sort of float between the two in a sense. CM Punk fans don't like Drew McIntyre, and I don't, as a Drew McIntyre fan, I don't like CM Punk. I don't like him. So I think that makes it a little bit interesting as well. You got Seth Rollins as ref, and like he said last night, I don't like you more than anyone in the locker room, and Drew, I don't like you either. So who knows how it's going to go, but I think having Seth there as the ref, should definitely make it interesting. That being said, I don't think Drew wins this match. I think CM Punk gets one over on Drew again. And I know some people might be tired of the storyline between Drew and CM Punk, but I love it. And I think what WWE here is doing is they're setting us up once again, maybe not completely like, Cody versus Roman, but how many times can one guy lose to the same guy over and over again? And I think they're going to do it again. So they're going to piss off all the Drew McIntyre fans once more with a CM Punk win over Drew. But I think eventually what that sets up is another Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk match. And that might come sooner than later. But I think in an ideal world, CM Punk has one of the heavyweight belts, and Drew McIntyre ends up taking it from him. So ultimately, Drew gets the last laugh over CM Punk. Maybe I'm just being a little more optimistic for Drew because, uh, like I said, I'm a Drew fan, and I'm okay to let Drew take the bumps right now as long as there's that payoff at the end. Um, so we'll see. I think this match could also set up, the winner of this match could face the winner of the Damian Priest versus Gunther. Obviously, Seth Rollins being the one that got his title taken. You could have this sort of 5-man um, race for that heavyweight title. All right. Liv versus Rhea. We'll go into that one first. Uh, as much as I want Rhea Ripley to win, I also don't. And so, what I think is going to happen with this match is Liv wins, but she wins with the help of Dominic Mysterio. And I think what's going to happen here is um, there's going to be this sort of de-evolution of, or evolution, I guess, if you want to put it, of Judgment Day. I think Gunther beats Damian Priest, um, and maybe with or without some assistance from Finn Balor specifically, wanting to serve as like the head of Judgment Day. He wants to be the new face of Judgment Day. And so I could see Finn Balor somehow interfering with the Damian Priest Gunther match, helping Gunther beat Damian Priest. And obviously that would lead to Damian Priest feeling betrayed by the Judgment Day and leaving. Like I said, I think Damian Priest is probably getting a push for a little bit of a solo run here. That being said, Liv and Rhea, I think Liv is going to retain because that's not what should happen or what I think most people are expecting to happen. The twist here is that obviously if Dom helps Liv out to help retain the title, Rhea is going to turn on Dom and dump him, beat him up at the end of the match, whatever it is. But I also think that there's going to be a plot twist with that, that don't assume that Liv is going to go rushing back to Dom after what Dom said to her a couple of Mondays ago. He said, "I hate you, Liv. You're the worst thing that's ever happened to me. You ruined my life." All this stuff. Obviously, Liv did, some graffiti in the Judgment Day locker room last night as well. So I think when Dom helps Liv beat Rhea, everyone's going to assume, oh, Dom and Liv are back together. But I think Liv kicks him to the curb too, because what better way to get revenge on Rhea than to take her man and then not want him at all? See ya. Goodbye, Dominic. So I think that puts Dominic back into the Judgment Day. I think Rhea leaves Judgment Day, and I think Damian Priest leaves Judgment Day as well. And now, what do you got left in Judgment Day? You got Finn Balor, you got Dominic, JD McDonough, and maybe some sort of Carlito in there as well. But here's my question: if Judgment Day is helping Braun Breaker to beat Sami Zayn, does that mean that Braun Breaker somehow becomes part of um, Judgment Day? I don't know. I'm not ready to take that leap just yet. But um, I think we'll just see how it goes out. But I think for right now, those four are going to be your Judgment Day moving forward. Last match, as it stands, confirmed. We still have Friday, so there might be another match. I know that there's gosh, who else are they talking about? Chad Gable versus Bo Dallas, possibly. Um, maybe that happens, maybe it doesn't. But as far as Cody versus Solo goes, uh, I think there's zero chance that Cody loses the title here, and I don't think there's a lot of people thinking that Cody does lose. But I think more of the bigger questions surrounding this match are: number one, does Roman return? Um, I don't know. I, I think SummerSlam is probably the biggest stage that we have left until uh, next WrestleMania. So Roman's got to return at some point between SummerSlam and WrestleMania. But is it tonight? I'm not sure. Um, I want to say no, but I could also see a scenario where the bloodline comes out and starts to beat up on Cody. Now, here's where I could see Roman returning. Obviously, he wants to establish that he is the head of the table, not Solo. So I could see Roman returning, but I think if he does, I think you're also going to see the return of Jimmy Uso, uh, and also seeing Jay rush in to help Cody at some point. So I think you would see some sort of Jay and Jimmy rush in to help Cody, and then maybe Roman comes out at the end and snatches the red chili peppers off of Solo's neck, whatever it is. And, I think what that sets up is you could have the old school bloodline with Roman, Jimmy, and Jay, and Paul Heyman against this new bloodline. Um, you also got to figure like Sammy and Jay teamed up last week together, and you know, I think they were really good friends from a storyline aspect when Sammy was in the bloodline, and I thought they worked well together. So, maybe even Sami Zayn becomes part of that old school bloodline again. Um, but I think that was when the bloodline was really fun when Sammy was in there and he was sort of like the comic relief for it. And I think if the entire old bloodline returns, now they become a total face. Everyone's been chanting "We miss Roman" ever since the last WrestleMania. With Solo as the head of the table. So those are maybe just some wild predictions that I have. But yeah, I think if Jimmy comes back, Roman comes back, and then you sort of set up this new bloodline versus old bloodline. Um, as far as that goes, we've run 30 minutes, which I'm shocked that I ran that long. Like I said, I'm new to this stuff, and so I appreciate any follows, any comments, interaction, whatever it is. Uh, I'm just here to try something new and have some fun. More than anything, uh, I just want to have some fun with it. So I appreciate anyone who's tuning in, stumbled upon this, whatever the case is. We'll continue to try and make this thing better and get it to grow. So, uh, as far as it goes for today, thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed what I had to say, and I'll see you next time. Later, gang.